The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. This is Abhiraj. Welcome to this session today with me. And today we're going to be talking about supercharging a digital revenue engine. Uh, Many thanks again for taking time out for this session. And I hope that over the next 30 minutes and a bit, you will be able to take away some value from the session that we are running today for the benefit of marketers and digital technologists and people who are looking at digital to influence, impact, and uplift revenue. So what we're going to cover today is that we're going to be talking about the customer and the kind of journeys that customers take. And instead of giving you a whole world of data and statistics, which a lot of you would be anyways reading about on a day-to-day basis, trends and such. I'm going to be focusing on the single most important thing that's applicable to every single brand, B2B or B2C, which is how does a customer move across stages of buying, whether it's a product, service, whether it's chips or cola or a piece of software. This journey is applicable to every brand, and I'm going to be showing you a real life example of a customer journey and how we are able to orchestrate a journey so that it impacts revenue. So I thought instead of giving you, other data points, it's best to walk you through an example. Then we will be talking about what role does data have to play. Of course, for every marketer, for every digital expert and professional, the role of data cannot be overstated or overemphasized. But how does data actually work by way of impacting experience, revenue, leads, and all those good things that matter to marketers and digital experts? So again, instead of showing you numbers, etc., I'm going to be connecting the role of data to the customer journey, showing you how at every step it becomes very important for you to look at recording the right kind of data. I'm going to be touching upon the importance of measurement. Working with a lot of customers in different industries and in different geographies, what I have realized is that often customers say that, look, I want to run a particular program, or I want you to help me in a particular way. And very often the next question then becomes that, are you able to get me ROI, or are you going to help me recover or make the best out of the investments that I've made and I'm going to make on digital or on marketing? And my first question typically always is that you cannot measure what you cannot record, right? So I want to see what you have recorded so far, and what are your baselines, and what are the things that you have been looking at in terms of measurement. Because unless and until we get to know that, we cannot really specify or work towards improving upon what we need to improve collaboratively. So measurement and what to measure are very important metrics, which are aligned to data again. So I'm going to be covering that. Since today's session is about the revenue engine, I'm going to be walking you folks through the concept, or the basic concept of a revenue engine, what it really means, what it really entails, and how will it be applicable for you is what I'm going to cover when we talk about getting started. So what are the first few steps you need to take if you are keen on embracing the revenue engine methodology or philosophy? And how do you get started and take the first few steps towards getting down that path? Like I said, so we'll start with A very simple and effective illustration of a customer journey, right? And I've taken a certain brand here for reference. This could be any brand in any vertical, in India or outside of India, B2B or B2C. This is just for exemplifying what really the possibilities are when we talk about a customer journey and how marketers can have the power to orchestrate right across the journey. So this is a scenario that's applicable to each one of us as marketers and people who are responsible for digital. Is that people go to Google and what they do is they can simply start typing for something, right? So in this case, this person who's going to Google is interested in something and he's doing some research and he types what you see. Now, what happens after this is that you get certain listings based on how different websites have configured and done their search optimization, and this person gets these listings to see. So what he does is he goes and clicks on this listing and goes to this website, right? And when he goes to this website, he starts reading, browsing the page, and comes down to some sort of a comparative view of the different options available, right? And clicks on one. Now, since this comparator looks at this first option, this person is kind of interested to know more about this option. Why has it been rated more highly as compared to others? This person goes and searches for this particular product on Google and goes to another search listings page and clicks on it and comes to a website, or it could be a landing page or a microsite, whatever is applicable, right? Starts browsing the website, reading different things, right? And as soon as this person spends X amount of time on this website or goes through the fold of the web page, right, a smart chatbot pops up, right, and asks, can I help you with something? Right? This is not an uncommon scenario. A lot of websites in India are already doing this. What we're trying to say here is how this forms part of the journey that you can orchestrate for an anonymous prospect or a customer, right? So the visitor specifies what they are looking for, right? And the chatbot says, sure, we're happy to help you. Please minimize the window and look back at the page that you have visited. Okay. Now on the bottom right of your screen, what you see here is a graph, right? So this is an anonymous visitor. They've come to your site for the first time, right? And therefore, they are, on research phase. We know that this visitor is unique and anonymous because their cookies or their, IP, their geolocation does not match with anything that we have in our marketing or customer database, right? So that cross check happened. We know that this is a first time unique visitor. And since this visitor is coming from a particular keyword typed on Google, we are able to predict that this person is doing some research and coming for the first time on the site. So this person minimizes the chat window as the chatbot has asked him to do. And if you see, this page has changed in real time, right? So what the chatbot has done is it has picked up this visitor's intent and behavior, asked a relevant question, gotten a relevant answer, and then passed on that intelligence to the orchestration at the back end, right? And then the orchestration at the back end, which is the technology which is running this site, is able to personalize in real time, within a web session, this page on which the visitor originally landed. Now, since this person has spent some time. What we see on the top middle of the screen is that we are trying to record and measure if this visitor is engaging with the site or engaging with the experience that's being offered, right? So the engagement value at the moment is fairly low, but at least we've had made a start by engaging and personalizing the page based on their preference. Right. So now the person scrolls down and clicks on a video, right? And he also downloads a product brochure. So he makes two actions. One is watching a video, which is related to the product that he's interested in, and downloading a brochure, which is also related to the product, which you can see on the bottom left of your screen, right? And now what's happening is that uh, since this is an anonymous first-time prospect to the website, uh, for all those of you who are using any kind of marketing automation or email marketing tool, would be familiar with concepts of scoring and nurture, right? So in scoring, what happens is that we look at recipients' behavior on communication sent to them, and then we try and measure that behavior. Has he clicked? Has he forwarded? Has he opened? Those are certain actions. Similarly, on a web page, those actions could be time spent, what has been downloaded, what has been clicked, uh, and all those kind of things. So these are behavior-related actions that recipients of emails or website visitors or those who are clicking on a retargeted ad, etc. They show that behavior, and if you're able to capture that behavior and uh, tie it to this individual, then what we know is that this individual is getting engaged, right? So here in this case, what we have done is at the back end, we have configured a few goals, and those goals are related to such behavior or behavioral actions, right? So watching a video is a goal. So this visitor has met a goal that the marketing team has configured, and he's also downloaded a brochure, which is also meeting another goal that the marketing team has configured, right? So by meeting these two, they've actually, met two goals, and therefore they have achieved a certain lead score, right? So lead scoring is very familiar concept in marketing automation. Uh, so this person has achieved a certain lead score, and therefore the engagement with the website or with the product or with the experience is increasing, as you can see at the top of the screen. Okay, now what we are going to do now is something which a lot of you people will be familiar with, right? So once, let's say, this person goes away from the site, and then you obviously want to bring this person back to the site, or move him forward towards showing more interest, or move him towards considering a buy or a purchase, right, of the product. So what we do is we're going to be triggering some push notifications. Now these could be mobile push notifications, what you see at on the center of the screen, bottom right. These could be mobile or web push notifications using simple point solutions. And you could also be, triggering ads, which is basically retargeting, which you might be already doing using some point solution, right? So the important thing here is that obviously the relevance of the product is important, and that behavior should be captured, and the retargeting should happen in a contextual way. And so once this person has been retargeted, let's say they click on this ad and come back to a landing page or a microsite. Now, interestingly, this is the second visit to the site, right? So now this is the second visit to the site, and what you see here is that the site has already personalized basis, or the page has already personalized basis the intent and the past behavior shown by this anonymous repeat visitor. Since he's clicked on a retargeted ad, this page now talks about things which are only relevant to what he's clicked on and nothing else whatsoever. So we are giving every opportunity to this visitor to feel that we are valuing his behavior, and we are showing him things which are relevant and nothing else. So let's say this person clicks on this ad, right? Or reads something. Immediately, after a few seconds, the orchestration is done in a way that the we should realize that this person is showing increased engagement, and it's a good time to try and get them to either a call or a meeting, because here we're talking about a certain product which has a certain investment associated with it. It's related to the the lifespan of the visitor. There are other things to be considered. So typically the sales cycle will always involve speaking to somebody who's an expert and guiding this person, right? So a pop-up is brought up here. Again, this is pure orchestration from the backend, um, saying that, yeah, well, look, would you like to speak with an expert, right? So this person says yes, and immediately a form is popped up, right? Now these could be, frames or, simple um, JavaScript based forms, or, anything else that you may be using. Um, the technology is important, but, what is more important is how do you use, these orchestrations at the right time. So we pop a form and ask them to put in their details. They put in their details and they mark a date and time, interestingly, for this call with an expert, right? And they click submit. As soon as they click submit, we have this person's details, right? Now this is in our database. We know that this is a known prospect with a name, with an email, with a number. We also know which sites have they come from, and what's the geo IP and their IP address, right? And since this is increase in engagement, what you see on the bottom right is that we have moved this prospect from a research to an evaluation phase because of the increased engagement and intent being shown. So this prospect is very much a lead now in the evaluation stage. And the engagement value on the top part of the screen has also increased. Okay, now what happens is that since we have a lead, ideally it should go into where your customer data is stored, right? So in this case, we've just for illustration used a certain CRM, and we get this data into the customer database in the CRM, and further an email is triggered from the backend welcoming this new person. It's a personalized email, both for the recipient as well as from a sender's perspective, right? It's a personalized email, um, and it welcomes this person, talks about what intent behavior they have shown, what interest they have shown, gives a quick brief about this upcoming call with an expert. And if you notice, there's an option to add to calendar, right? So that the calendar is blocked for this call. Further, on the email itself, there is an option to download the app for this website, right? So we are trying to give another call to action here, saying that, look, we know that you're interested in a product, you want to speak to us. Why don't we download an app and make it even easier for you to keep engaging with us, right? So as soon as this person clicks on the download app thing, right, if you see the engagement increases further at the top of the screen. So every intent, every action that this visitor is taking based on the communication that's going to this person is increasing their engagement with us. Now let's say this person downloads the app. So the person downloads the app, signs up for the app, right? And their engagement keeps increasing. The bottom right, they are now being moved to a consideration stage, because with every piece of engagement and their score, their lead score is increasing, so they are moving down the customer journey. And immediately after they have signed up for the app, they get a notification that, well, you have a call coming up. And they also might get notifications around examples of others who have bought this particular product, right? Let's say this person actually goes, swipes, and watches this story that's being notified to her, right? So this is a case study or a testimonial for this product. And then there is a reminder about the call coming up. Then finally, the date the call has to happen. The call goes from the call center to this person. And what happens is that whatever communication takes place during the call is recorded in the customer data system, which is a CRM in this case. And once it's recorded in the CRM, it's shared back with the database which we have supporting the website and the mobile app, right? So this data is flowing between these two systems to enable you to have a single view of this particular prospect, right? Now, this person gets a recommendation on the app about a particular product that is fit, and this is based out of the result of the call that they've had with the expert. So this is a recommendation to buy this particular product. So let's say they click on buy, book, complete the transaction, right? Fill in their details. Right? And after they fill in their details, they become a customer. So on the bottom right, the journey has now traversed from a research phase to now into a customer phase, right? And the engagement value at the top is very high. After the customer has actually bought a certain product, certain time goes by, you have the history of the customer, you know what they have bought, what their intents and interests are, and therefore you can cross or upsell to the same customer based on their profile data that's already stored with you, right? So this person is of a certain age, has certain intent, certain interests, certain buying pattern. Based on all those parameters, you can actually custom fit certain products and recommend or suggest to this person. And if they buy, they obviously become a more valued customer and increase the LTV of the customer. So this is moving beyond the customer stage to upsell to a repeat customer now. So if you notice the interesting thing here on the top right of the screen, this records the span of the journey, right? So this is again an illustrative journey. The span could be longer or shorter depending on the nature of the product being bought. But what is important is that we keep a track of when this journey started, how many visits did it take to convert, how many visits did it take to upsell, and what could be average closure times using digital as the primary influencer, as you just saw in this journey. So this is an example of how, if this kind of a journey is orchestrated and played out, then marketers will be able to predict with a lot of surety as to what their life cycles could be. If digital is the main influencer of converting prospects into customers, how many visits does it take, what all channels are involved, and how long will it roughly take on an average for this conversion to happen, right? Which is all very important metrics for marketers to measure the performance of their programs, right? What's interesting also is that in this case, we've seen how offline and digital merge together. You know, your call center is your offline channel. There could be other offline channels like agents and, or agencies or, affiliates, etc. What is important, what is tying the entire thing together is the data piece, right? So if the data of offline and digital can be, combined together, it makes for even stronger marketing programs, because with a lot of products, you cannot just rely on digital. Offline has to be involved at some point or the other. And finally, what happens is that once this customer's data keeps getting accumulated, their intent, behavior, their buying, all of that data keeps getting accumulated over time from the app, from whatever they have done on your website, whatever they have done post login, right? Because they're a customer now, and keeps going into the system, which by itself starts getting smarter. So we've all talked, heard, read about machine learning and how it can make a difference to marketing. This is a live example of how machine learning can actually kick into place, because when you're recording all of this data for every single prospect and customer, you can therefore enable your backend MarTech stack to become smarter and be able to predict a lot of things after a certain period of data accumulation. And then you get a single view of the customer, right? So this is starting from day one when they first visited using Google, till the day they became a customer, and then beyond that. So everything is recorded at one place. This data is available in your marketing, your website systems, your marketing automation systems, if you're using those, as well as your CRM. So there is unification of the data at the back end, which enables you to have a single view of the customer and everything that they have done with your brand and your products. Which brings us to the role of data. So the important thing is that in most marketing organizations, data lives in silos, and therefore what happens is the kind of experience you just saw is very hard to orchestrate that at scale, right? You cannot really orchestrate that. You cannot, and therefore you cannot measure, and what you cannot measure you cannot report. So unless there is a concerted push towards integrating data, it's very hard for you to not just offer the kind of experience and marketing capabilities that I just showed you an example for, but also to actually show to your bosses that, look, I mean, I'm actually doing actionable returns versus the budgets that I'm getting. And this is not something which is not known to us. It's one of the biggest things which is around the marketing and the MarTech world, which is the data and how you get it together. Because unless you do that, you will have only partial success. And to illustrate that, I'll show you another brief journey on the role of data, and how you can really look at data at every touch point with the customer, right? So I've chosen certain tools here just for illustration. These could be any other tools or any other platforms. You might be using some of these or none of these. Doesn't matter. What matters is that what role do these tools have to play, and what role does data play, right? So a simple example, somebody does some SEM or PPC, or sends out an email or an event invitation and gets a lead, right? And this prospect shows interest, arrives on your website or your landing page, right? And this page or the site could be based on one particular platform, or any platform that you might be using. And as soon as they come here, right, and we know that they have signed up and they have come to this page, this data goes to your CRM system. So that's the first touch point where you are taking data from one system and passing it to the other, and a profile is created immediately in the CRM, right? Now this visitor goes away, right? And if they actually sign up, they become a lead in your CRM. If they don't sign up, they go away as an unknown visitor. So you try to retarget them, right? And you try to retarget them to try and get them to sign up or do some other action, right? if they do fall for the retargeting ad and click and read the content or an offer, right? Again, they immediately become uh, a, a lead, because once you have an offer or a piece of gated content, uh, then somebody will have to sign up or at least give basic information like email or phone to be able to get that offer, right? So as soon as that happens, a profile is created in the CRM and a lead score is assigned. Again, data is playing a role, and this data gets updated in your CRM, and a certain lead score is assigned. As they keep on going in their journey and they become a known prospect to you, whatever they do, you might be sending them some emails, you might be continuing to send them some offers, whatever communication you are sending to them or whatever communication they are showing interest in through clicking or coming to your web page or opening your email, every single behavior is captured and lead score keeps getting updated in your CRM system. Obviously, this person is still not ready to make a purchase, or have a conversation about making a purchase, which is in a B2B scenario. So you continue sending them relevant thought leadership material, offers, or content, which is all nurture programs. All of you or many of you would be running these, right, through different channels, using a variety of different platforms or tools or channels. And we keep recording behavior. This is an ongoing thing. It never ends till this person actually converts, and even after that, for that matter. Nurture should always keep going on because the profile has already been created. So the journey goes on. Try to invite him for an event, right? They show interest. Again, lead score is updated, right? They come to the event, meet with the sales rep. At this point, the lead is actually transitioned in the CRM from marketing to sales. Engage with the sales team, right? And finally, what happens is a deal may or may not happen. But that's not in marketing's control, and that's the sales cycle. In a B2B scenario, in a B2C scenario, they may buy or they may not buy, right? And there are different other programs that you can then orchestrate. But nurture and the concept of engagement, continuous engagement and continuous measurement of data for every single profile is mandatory. And that's why data is so important. Which brings to a related topic, which is, what is important to measure, right? We're talking about a revenue engine, so it's apt that revenue is the most important metric, for the marketing and sales organizations, and therefore it's the most important thing that needs to be measured. However, there are other things which are important, which all contribute to the measurement of revenue, where things like the number of qualified opportunities, leads generated, what is the ROI from your marketing programs, which campaigns are resulting in higher returns, how much digital sales have you achieved, and so on and so forth. But it's important to start small, and look at your baselines and look at very specific baselines through which you can measure things, right? So these are some examples of things which are important, especially from a digital standpoint. Things which are very black and white in nature and should be attributable and measurable if you need to truly see how digital is making an impact on revenue. And to show that through an example, I'll walk you through very briefly around this very interesting example, right? So the point is that whatever you do on digital has to be tied into strategic business and marketing objectives, right? So if the strategic objective is that the brand or a product should be the top choice in that category, right? What does it break down into as business objectives? One is that obviously you want to sell more of the product, and two, you want to be able to increase servicing revenue as well, right? So you want to be able to sell a good product and more of it in a good product, and also offer the service, which is ongoing revenue associated to the product, right? And therefore the marketing objectives behind further, if you drill down and get to the marketing objectives, is that what role does digital have to play here is that for new car sales, you need to have book more test drives, you need to have more contacts with dealerships through the digital, right? And book more car servicing, more car servicing leads through digital. And these break down into separate digital goals, whether it's your app, your website, your email marketing, any channel that you want to use, right? And I've talked about scoring, the importance of scoring and continuous engagement. So this is an example, it's a B2C example, of course, for a car, but what's important here is that how do you measure the value of engagement that they have, that they will show, as you want to use digital to influence, right, sales. So every particular action, explicit action or behavior, has a certain grade or point score, and this is completely automated and orchestrated at the back end. So what you see on the left are scores that, if I am going to be using a dealer locator, I'm showing certain interest, and therefore I get 30 points, right? If I book a test drive, I get 75 points, and so on. So these differ from brand to brand, industry to industry, B2B to B2C, but the concept is very important, by way of orchestration. And then what happens is that, I showed you what happens at the back end with data, just, in the section before this on the importance of data. So this is a very simple example of how you use rules to influence, to influence engagement, right? So, this is a very simple breakdown example. I talked about the goals that, strategic business marketing goals, and finally, you have digital goals. This is an example of using digital goals, which is in the form of personalizing your website based on the rules that you set up on, and those rules, some of those rules you can see on the bottom left, right? So somebody's coming through a certain campaign, or has a certain profile, right? If it's second or third party data that you're using, might be coming on a certain date and time, might be coming from Mumbai versus Delhi, right? Might be coming for the second time, or might have just converted a goal, like, read a video through a retargeting ad. So it depends on, the rules that are, configured, and how you're using them in real time for personalization, right? Profiles are extremely important. Again, data is important, whether it's acquired data, your first party owned data, or your earned data, whatever the case is. It's extremely important to maintain this kind of profiling in place for you to be able to, target very, very specific offers and content. So it's all about simplifying the who and the what, right? What are they interested in? What's the budget? Where are they in their journey? And what kind of behavior they show. If they have gone to a certain product on your site and they are reading about it, you should be able to record that, right? And you should be able to use that to your advantage. They're not looking at all the products, they're looking at a specific product. If they have selected a specific product, you don't need to ask them what's their budget. Their budget is going to be high because they've chosen an expensive product and they're interested in that. Right? And where are they in their journey? Well, it's in the scoring that you already have. You don't need to ask them. You know the score. If you're tracking all their actions across channels, then you will know through your lead score whether they are ready to, have a sales conversation, or they are still, in a need of nurture. Once you have all this information, right? The next step is to simply try and convert, right? And this is, a real life example which resulted in some of these metrics that you see. That's upliftment that's a direct impact on revenue, right? If if there is two buying decisions made out of all these leads that have gone up, there's your ROI. So, through these examples, I wanted to give you folks a sense of really the importance of looking at the customer journey and getting your orchestration in place to be able to influence it in the right possible way and drive higher conversions. We talked about the importance of data, why it's important at every step, every touch point of the journey, the importance of what to measure to be able to have really complete transparency and move towards delivering ROI on whatever you're spending. Now we'll talk about what's the revenue engine, which is what today's session was basically all about. What you just saw were different illustrations of the revenue engine at work, right at the back end. So the revenue engine is no rocket science. It's simply a combination of certain platforms, and the combination of these platforms leads to all the things that you see on the right. So first steps towards getting a single view of the customer, right? Higher customer insights, and the ability to do cross-channel demand gen orchestration, right? Using whatever tools you may have today, right? And to simplify it further, right? These are three of the most common tools that most marketing organizations use today from a digital perspective. Most marketing organizations are using some sort of email marketing or marketing automation program. They would be having some website and app platform, which will be your CMS or your experience platform. And 90% organizations will be using a CRM, whether it's a homegrown CRM or an open source CRM or a licensed software. You would be using a CRM in most cases, right? So it's these three systems. You use your marketing automation to pitch, and you can add other tools to this as you grow more mature. You can add your social marketing tool, your content marketing tool, your retargeting tool, and everything that you use for outbound communication can be your pitcher, right? In baseball terms, whatever engagement happens will happen on your website, on your app, on your landing page, on your microsite. It will happen at some point of arrival, right? And that point of arrival should be trackable, measurable, and should be built on the same platform that you're using for your website or for your app. And everything gets recorded in the CRM. And this data is exchanged with your marketing automation platform and with your website platform, so that data is the same across all systems. That's what we call as trying to get to a single view of the customer. Doesn't sound very complicated according to me, but in any ways, a lot of organizations say that, well, that's a lot to ask for. Well, it's not that difficult. Getting started is not that difficult. It's a few days that you invest to really improve, and improve your impact on revenue, right? So it's important to do an audit first and see where do you stand in terms of your maturity towards measurement data and your systems. Do a small workshop. If you know there are certain gaps, if you have identified certain areas of improvement, it's always good to do a workshop, align on those, and really chart out a way ahead, right? It's important to also have very close alignment with sales. Marketing and sales alignment is probably one of the most important things in the entire piece, whether it's B2C or B2B. Defining, quick outcomes. So, you may have 100 things to fix, but you cannot, it's going to happen, over a period of time. So it's important to have a realistic view, depending on the infrastructure you have, the kind of resources you have in-house, your partners, the budgets you have at your disposal, and the kind of approvals you get from your leadership. So it's not going to happen all at once. It's going to be a graded process, and it's important to be realistic about what is going to comprise quick wins for me, so that I can get more budgets, more resources to be able to execute this. And always a roadmap is extremely important, because then that you're headed in the right direction with the right objectives. So just a quick thing about how these things work. An audit is typically to see how ready are you, what are the gaps, right? And how do you move forward? A report would be basically a recommendations saying, you've identified gaps. How do you fix those gaps? That's where the recommendations come in. And a roadmap is charted out, which is, over a 6 week to 3 year roadmap, depending on the maturity of the organization and the size of the organization. And then the execution, where you follow the roadmap and start getting milestones at every step of the way. What's covered in the revenue workshop, it's basically not too much of an investment, over a week to 2 weeks of some collaborative activity. You and your partner can very well figure out how this works and how do you improve. And this is what a roadmap could potentially look like. You might be starting from the very basic stages, and you want to move towards a scenario where you have single view of the customer, you are able to do marketing to every single customer and prospect at scale, meaning 100,000, 200,000, half a million, right? So it's important to be realistic about where you stand today and how you're going to get to a certain stage. So this roadmap will be different for different organizations depending on their internal skills, their partner abilities, the systems that they have, the budgets that they have, the resources that they have. But it can be a fairly cost-effective activity if you've already done a lot of things, and it can be a fairly extensive activity if your maturity is lower. But the most important thing is achieving symphony, because unless your data is in place, unless your systems are in place and talking to each other, you will not be able to orchestrate, or increase revenue impact through your marketing programs or through digital. So the symphony is what everybody should work towards, because this is where you really want to head to get true ROI from your programs. That's all that I had today. I'm not sure how much time is left, but I'm happy to take any questions that may come up.
Hi, Abhiraj. Amit again. So we do have a couple of questions. One is from Abhishek. And Abhishek has asked a question, just hang on. He asks, what is the timeline in which the revenue engine can start giving ROI? I'm rephrasing, of course, I'm not quoting him. But what he means to ask is, typically, how much time does it take for the revenue engine to start impacting the bottom line?
Yeah, great question. And I think I did touch upon it briefly. The question on everybody's mind is, when I talked about the roadmap at the end of the session, a lot of people have asked me in the past that, well, this looks like, a lot to do, right? It looks like difficult. It looks like it will take a lot of time, a lot of money. It's not the time it will take to give you returns could be as short as 4 to 6 weeks, right? We've seen our customers achieve that. So it depends a lot on certain things like maturity in terms of operations, in terms of what have you achieved so far in digital. So I think there are other questions which are related to it, but if I'm going to be honest about answering this question, it could be as little as 4 to 6 weeks, or as much as 3 months to start giving initial results. But it's never happened that it's taken 6, 8 months or 1 year for this to show results. So that's the beauty of this concept, is that it's inherently simple, and if you get the basics right, it will start showing results fairly quickly.
Okay, we have time for just one more. This is from Gaurav, and he wants to ask. His question is, how many platforms do we connect to? Like, what kind of? And I'm again paraphrasing. How many marketing automation platforms? What kind of connectors are there which can help pull out data and integrate seamlessly for the revenue engine to function?
Oh, it's fairly agnostic. So, it can be done with any system or platform, right? So, I illustrated this through, certain journeys. The certain platforms were covered in those journeys, right? But that's not to say that only those platforms can do this. There are other marketing automation platforms that are capable. So it's not so much dependent on particular platforms. It's dependent more on, if you have a certain stack, how flexible and open it is for data exchange, and security wise, is it okay to be exchanging data between these systems, and for you to have cross-channel marketing capabilities. So I think those are larger questions. I don't think there is a system dependency here to achieve this notion of the revenue engine. Any systems which have the capabilities that are required to do this should be a good fit for this.
That's great. Thanks, Biraj. And we're right at the end of our webinar today. If you have any questions, you can just send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer any queries that you might have. If you need more information about the revenue engine, we'd be glad to send you a free copy of our ebook. You can send us all your queries. We'll be sending out the webinar recordings to all the attendees, and you can just revert to our email, and we'll be happy to answer or speak to you. We can actually arrange a no obligation subject matter expert conversation telecon with you. Thank you so much, Abhiraj, for making this happen, and thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, our audience, for being such a great audience today. Have a good day, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.